We're live, cool. So we're back with Deceive Reality. We're here today with Andrew Basso. Thanks so much, man, for joining us.
Ciao a tutti. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, so how we get started kind of every week, obviously for everyone that's watching, Dave has vanished. He's actually sick today, so get well soon for Dave. So how did you get started, Andrew? How did magic kind of catch the bug? How did you start magic?
My story starts back then when I was 7 years old. First off, it's very important where I come from. I come from a very northern Italy called Valsugana. It's a little town with, back then it was like, 5,000-6,000 people, and very quiet town surrounded by mountains, and not much going on usually. So kids plays, in the main square, playing ball, this kind of stuff. No entertainment at all. So when something like a circus came to town, as a kid, for me was the greatest thing ever. And so I saw this white and red tent, and I begged my father to go in. And so he brought me in, and I remember the smell of the popcorns, the cotton candy, the animals as well. And then the show started, and I see these people dressing up in a very strange and interesting way, doing incredible things. And I remember that was my first moment where I decided that in my life I want to be part of the extraordinary part of the magical world of entertainment. So that was my first step, my first approach. And I think 1 year later, we were in a fair in another place in Italy, and I was walking with my mother and my father, and there is a group of people that they are paying attention to one guy that was standing there with a table with 3 cups and 3 balls. And so we go closer. I make space between the people to go closer. And this magician takes one of the balls, gives it in the hand of my mom. Then he takes the other one and make it vanish. And then he points to my mom. She opens and she had 2. And I remember the magic in the eyes of my mom. And as a 8 years old kid, that was a thunder that struck me straight in the head, and was the beginning of the dream, because I said, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to create in other people's life. And that was the beginning.
That was it. So once you saw that reaction that the performer got, then you kind of wanted that for yourself.
Yeah, definitely. If I have to look back, that the moment, definitely. I do remember watching on. My mom was watching on TV. This guy that was traveling from square to square in Italy, doing a karaoke, bringing people on stage. And this guy was kind of a showman, and his name is Fiorello, and he became very famous later. Want to make people happy, have people having fun. So definitely, these are the elements that build up what then became my career.
It's amazing. We actually had some during the week. When we announced that you were going to be on the show, we had, and some people messaged in some questions. So I have one here. What was the first escape you ever performed? What was the first? It's from Emma. And what was the first escape you ever performed?
From Emma. Thank you, Emma, for your question. So my journey started, with a deck of cards, of course, and then when I was around 14, in every book I was reading, I was finding the name of Houdini. And Houdini did this, and Houdini did that. He was everywhere, and I was wondering what this guy did that made him immortal. We are still talking about him. And so that's how my interest in escapology started to come in. And when I showed my interest in escapology, my mentor, I had a teacher when I was 12, my first magic teacher. And when I started to talk about escapology, he was like, leave it there. There is danger. We don't want to go there. And of course, as soon as I was mentioning something about that, my mom would like, don't try to do any of that. And so anything, that they were trying to close the door off, I was trying to open it a little bit more. So my interest grew up like that. My first escape, I think my very first one was asking my father to tie me up with a long rope. So I saw this booklet, and there was this guy on a chair with a long rope. So I went to the garage, took the rope. It was all dirty, I remember, and asked my father to tie me up. And he was like, "Are you sure?" Yes. And my father is the nicest guy ever. So he was making knots like this, with a ribbon. And I was like, no, more, make it tight, it has to be real. And so he started to put better knots. And I remember I couldn't escape. I remember I was stuck there. And I remember this sense of frustration of not being able to get out. And so he was like, okay, let me, undo the knots. And no, leave me here. And I remember I was there for a couple of hours. My wrists were purple. And, definitely that defined me in that age in terms of, here's a challenge, I'm going to make it. And I remember when I succeeded for the first time, I remember the feeling of victory I had. And that was definitely my beginning in the journey of escapology.
I think so, because I do a lot of escapes myself as well, and like we talked about this before, and I'm tagged as like Ireland's Houdini kind of a thing. And I think escapes draws people in where you can't be as a skeptic as you are with magic. You can be skeptic with magic, but I think people see it as a skill level in escapology that you have to be able to pick locks and learn how to escape.
Yeah, I do think that probably escapology brings a level of empathy of the audience on a deeper level, because it's automatic. If you see someone in trouble, in a hard situation to get out of, I think it's human to feel that empathy of, is he gonna make it? Is he gonna? So I think that brings you already on a level where skepticism is a way. Although I think performing an escape for an audience, especially when there is danger involved, it's quite hard to go in the direction where people are going to be with you and believe that the danger is real, because I think we are so used today to watch action movies, and if a special effect is done poorly, people are like, come on, whatever. So same on stage. I think the balance to find between being theatrical and being real needs to be found at a certain level for the audience of today.
I think so too, and I think it's one of those, like you said, you mentioned Houdini with the trying to bring people into the mindset of the magician or the escape artist, like when he used to get people to hold their breath for the same amount of time, and now performers are still using that today. So it has made that legacy, kind of long after his death.
Yes, absolutely. And especially when there are things that people experience themselves, like as you say, everyone had their head underwater one time in their life, and they know what it means holding your breath, and they know how hard it gets, after 30 seconds, after a minute. So I think certain escapes definitely put people, the audience, right away into the mindset of, oh my God, this is real, and this is going to be really dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely. And you want them to come on that journey with you.
Yeah. They do it on a safer level, sitting on their sofa or on their seat, and I'm the channel, right, for them to experience safely something that is gonna give them adrenaline. Their amygdala is going to go crazy probably.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just they're so intense, and you're so drawn in at that moment. So you mentioned Houdini. Did you kind of research then as many books as you could find on Houdini? Because that's pretty much what I did. I just immersed myself in the life and times of Houdini.
Yeah, you have to think that back then when I was 13, 14, my research was in the local library, and was very little about magic, very little. But they had a computer, and I could access through the internet, my first experience in a window to the world, and I could search into websites that had stuff. And I remember I found a collector back in America, and he was selling Houdini stuff, books, and so I was doing shows already, so I was making €10 here, €10 there.
Sure.
And so those little money were totally dedicated to the investment of my future. So I had all those books he had shipped to Italy. And I remember I had so much trouble. Back then there was no PayPal. I didn't have a bank account. So shipping the money, sending the money was always like a journey. But yeah, books were my first approach. Mostly were biographies. Were not about secrets. So I think that gave me a lot of imagination to think, how he would do certain things. And then I started experiencing myself. And I think, as you know, there is no really much material about escapology. So my beginning was self-testing and failing and repeat.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love the way you said that your dad just tied you to a chair and you had to figure it out. I love that. That's and that's the best way to learn. Just jump in the deep end.
Yeah, I was very lucky that I had a father that supported me. My mother wasn't very supportive in the beginning. She was very skeptic about me doing any of this. Then she became my first fan, when things started to go well, and she could see that it was a tangible success what I was doing. But definitely, yeah. Also, my friends tied me up. It was a challenge here and there with the tape, and that was my first experience. Yeah.
So we'll jump ahead then, and then you're performing and you're doing these large scale escapes, and you've done some stuff. We had another question in actually from Tony, and it was, what was the worst escape you ever did, and would you ever repeat it again? Like, as in, you only had to do it once. Would you ever, that kind of thing?
Thank you, Tony, for your question. The worst escape, I guess with worst, he refers to something that may have gone wrong, or I may have failed.
What was the worst escape you ever performed, and would you ever do it again?
Okay, so in terms of worst escape, I have two answers. One, it was a disaster because it did not turn out well as a performance. And that was back when I was 17. I did my first TV show here in Italy. It was like a talent show, very local, very small, but for me was, being on the major channel of the TV. And I won the first competition, so I went to the finals, semifinals, and then finals. And back then I didn't really have a show, so my big finale was the mailbag escape. And for those who don't know the mailbag escape, the performer goes inside of a bag that has these holes where a bar goes through to lock the bag where the escape artist is inside, 2 locks on the outside, and then there is a curtain that covers up, and then the escape artist makes it out of the bag, and the locks are still there and everything. That was my big finale back then. So I thought, well, for the final competition, I'm gonna do my big act, and so that was my thing. But I never liked the vision of the artist in the back on stage because it looked like a potato sack, right?
Yeah,
And I always
absolutely.
thought it was kind of ugly to see this bag moving with someone inside. I think it's funny, and I didn't want it to be funny. I wanted to be dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my head, I thought, what if I put a chain that connects the shackle of the padlock on the right to the other one? So there is a chain, and then the chain is gonna be held from a hook from above there. So I'm gonna have this vision of a triangle, kind of the chain. You see the bar perfectly straight, is not, and then we see the bag right there, and the curtain, of course, to cover the method.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, local TV show, everything is last minute, no real time to do rehearsals. I tell them, in the theater, you pull the chain motor down, and we're gonna hook the thing, so the chain and everything's gonna be there. Fine. So I do my thing. They put me the handcuffs, the chain. I go inside the bag. They close the bag. I didn't have any assistants. I said, the presenter is gonna do it. So he did it. He put the bar through the holes, pulled the padlocks, the chain. They hooked the thing, and then the music starts. They were supposed to pull the curtain, and what happened is actually the guy working in the theater thought, oh, it's my time to lift the bag up. And so the guy started to pull the chain motor up, and I felt I started to levitate. And I was totally surprised because I didn't arrange any of that. And I knew that the mailbag I had, it was not made of canvas. It was some cheap cloth from a magic shop. And that thing was going to crack open soon.
Oh.
So I started to scream as loud as I could. And so the presenter came closer and say, "What's wrong? I'm not supposed to be here. Bring me down." So they brought me down. They pulled the curtain up. I did my escape. I came out, and people were very they were very confused about, was this supposed to happen or not? So that was the worst escape that I would not repeat in that way. Absolutely. Then if I'm sure in the following question, there will be some worse escape in terms of it was particularly dangerous and it turned out wrong, and I'll be happy to give an answer about that as well.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I know when you're challenged for things like that about doing a piece for TV. Being the thing about with magic is you can rehearse it and rehearse it and rehearse it, and you can rehearse escapes to a certain point. But majority of what escape artists do has to be live. It has to be in front of a big audience. There's not very much room for error.
Yeah, rehearsing escapes can be hard. First, you cannot really do it alone, so you always need assistance. Second, sometimes you need a structure or a location or a place that allows you to do it. If you're hanging, by a crane, you need a crane. If you want to be underwater, you either have a tank or you need a lake or a swimming pool. So it's challenging. It's very challenging compared to magic. There is a lot of effort also in being able to rehearse. So you need to create your gym to make it happen.
Absolutely, yeah. And then obviously there's a whole other side of escapology as well, where you have to be fit and you have to keep conditioned. And I mean, there's a whole other part. And I think I remember talking to somebody recently, and they were saying there's not very many like amateur or semi-professional escape artists. And I was just joking with them, like, there's loads of semi-professional and amateur magicians, but if you're a semi-professional or amateur escape artist, there's more than likely you're seriously injured or you're dead because you can't fake this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I think escapology is quite a niche because you cannot really fake to be an escape artist. And so there is a selection in the beginning. There may be magic made easy, but I don't think there is escapology made easy.
No.
I think there are things that are easier than other that you can begin with, but definitely, and also it's not. You need to test on yourself you need your bruises, you need your accidents, you need your lessons, and so I think it's only for those who really wants to do it and try on their skin. Magic maybe is more popular on that level.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I think over the last couple of years, though, it seems to be coming more kind of full circle. With more international performers performing and people, and obviously that connection with Houdini will always be there because he's the great grandfather of all of escapology. So, and all the methods, well, not all, but a lot of the methods we still use today, have come on some way through him.
Yeah, I do believe that when there is something successful, of course, it creates like uh, um, a following of performers who would take that direction because it's a successful direction. I guess that when someone like Shin Lim went on AGT and became a winner, I think a lot of the performers who thought close up, you can go really much far with close up, they thought, whoa, that this is a game changer. And so I'm sure that a lot of people went back or approached close-up magic with a different perspective. So thank you, Shin Lim, for doing that, because that's bringing close-up magic alive again in 2020. With the Escapology, same. Yes, I agree with you that in the past years, I've seen how talent shows are looking for things more dangerous. We want to scare people. We want to make it more dangerous, more phenomenal, and so Escapology definitely fits well this niche that they require.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, it's going to make good TV if it's death defying and draws people in and all that kind of stuff, and that's what the producers want. But the fear of that is you might have someone who's like, well, I'll just give it a shot, and it's live TV, and it could go horribly wrong. There was that performer in India that did the river escape, and and he died from it. So it is, you like you said, you can't fake your methods. You have to know, and like Houdini said, the brain is the key. It really is. If you don't have the knowledge, you're in trouble.
I know about that said episode of India, and there has been some more recent ones in some Spain TV show. There's been two guys who passed out or almost passed out doing an underwater thing. So in the past 5 years, I've seen quite a few going that direction, and not because of the nature of the dangerous act itself, but because definitely the preparation that they didn't have, there was a lack of preparation. They didn't approach with professionals next to them how to train to hold the breath in a certain way. So I always say my number one job right now when I have to bring an act is safety first. Yes, I'm doing a dangerous act. I'm gonna do a death-defying act, but my professional approach has to be safety as much as I can in every possible direction. What's my plan B? What's my plan C? Am I training with the best people in that field? Let's say I'm going to do an underwater escape. Am I training with the best people who do breath holding, who can train me for my purpose? Or, I'm going to go in my bathtub and I'm going to try to hold my breath. And when I reach 2 minutes, I can go on stage. Definitely, you cannot really approach in an amateur way these type of things, because you are gonna pay you're gonna pay the price with your own life. And these episodes that happened in recent years are pure examples.
Yeah, yeah, it's hard to say. Just saying that with injuries and stuff, what was the worst injury you ever have? You have any? I know Houdini used to say he could dislocate shoulders and all sorts of stuff for PR and publicity.
Well, talking of the rope, yeah, probably those years. I was, yeah, in my teenager career. In the show, I was doing the rope escapes on the chair, and so normally we will arrive, and back then we would use what was on site. So I needed a chair. We take a chair of the audience, and this show back then had this plastic chair, right? And I was tied up on that chair, and my arms were on the side like this. Okay, so I couldn't really move or anything. And so I started to move, and at some point I was doing this, and then suddenly I lost my balance. And so with the chair, I lost the balance in the front, and I couldn't move. And I did this on the floor with my face first. And I remember with my teeth, as I was falling, I did this. You know, like I tensed up, but the result was I made a hole in my lips with my teeth because when I hit it, you know, I made a hole. So that was a stupid thing, but that was my first. Talking of
you learn from those, Andrew. You learn from all of those. You know what I mean? You have to do those to learn from them.
Yeah, definitely was nothing too serious, and definitely I learned what kind of chair I'm going to use the next time. You know, yeah. Something that went really wrong was in 2013. So 7 years ago, I was in the final episode at the finals of Italy's Got Talent.
Okay.
So you know, you have Britain's Got Talent, and we had Italy's Got Talent, and so in the finals, between my escapes options, they picked the coffin of death, and this is an escape that was invented back from Mr. Escape, Steve Baker.
Oh yeah,
and he was, you know, the first who joined stuntman abilities with the escape artist abilities, and he created extraordinary, spectacular escapes with explosives and things like that. So the coffin of death is I'm inside of a coffin, wood coffin. Inside I'm chained on my wrist and my ankle, so I'm like laying inside of the coffin. The coffin is nail shut. They put explosive on top of it, and then they say go, and I have 60 seconds to escape, crack the coffin, and jump out before a car at 100 miles per hour is going to hit the coffin. Yeah. So ta-da. So
yeah, not much harder than a card trick.
Yes. So of course, you know, as a showman, the escape is to calculate the time that your escape is going to happen as close as possible to the impact of the car and the explosion, right? So we made our rehearsals and everything. This escape, I performed it 7 years earlier for another TV show. So this was my second time in 2013. Okay. You can find it on my YouTube, Coffin of Death, Andrew Basso. You see everything. And so we did the rehearsals. Everything was fine. But then the pyro technicians of the TV channel, going back a second, when I do my escapes, I always bring my team. I have my assistants, my stuntman drivers, my pyro technicians. So back then, I was about to bring my team, and there were some expenses to pay. And the TV channels say, "Oh, your pyrotechs are too expensive. We are going to use ours that are the number ones. They are the best people in the business." And I say, yes. And so I didn't have my people have their people. And for the final filming, these guys created something, some mixture with their explosive. And so I make my escape. The car is coming with my stuntman driver that is great, perfect timing. I jump out, the car hits the coffin, explosion, and then this big mushroom of fire, atomic, like an atomic bomb,
Yeah.
goes in the air. And instead of evaporating like flash paper, because that was, an embellishment, I just needed the car to die. I didn't need the explosion. But the explosion, instead of evaporating, this ball of fire just falls down again, exactly where I was laying on the floor.
Crazy.
And so this material was still burning, and so it went over me, and the combustion, the burning, was happening on my body. So nobody was there with the fire extinguisher. There were, the TV production, and nobody doing that. So by instinct, I stood up and I started to run and try to take the flames off myself. That is a big mistake. I should not have done that either.
Sometimes when that with like that, like a TV network and stuff like that, and you can't have your normal crew. I'm the same. I have a crew that we work with when we're doing stuff, and you do feel uneasy if you can't have everyone in place that's normally in place.
Yeah, definitely. I will never, ever again find a compromise when it's about your own life. Definitely that was something I would not do, because I trusted they were the best people, but they created something that was not supposed to be what it was supposed to be. And so I was burned on my hand. I had a fireproof suit, thank God. And so, like Formula One suit type of thing. So only my face was out and my hands. And so my hands was very badly burned, especially the right one. I had a very good surgeon in Padua, Dr. Chiarelli, who really took care of my hand. And you can't really see anything today. Only when I get tanned, you kind of see, the different color of the hand. But he did an amazing job. So yeah, definitely that was my worst escape gone wrong.
All escape artists need the story, man. I burned this, I did this, I broke here. We all need that. You need the scars.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna do dangerous things in your life, it's for as much prepared as you can be. Sooner or later, something is going to go wrong. Hopefully, not too much. That you can tell the story. But if you're gonna sit in an office and you're gonna do your job, nothing's gonna happen. If you're gonna be, climbing a mountain, probably a scratch here and there, or a fall, or a broken leg. I think it's part of.
Yeah, it really is. So the Illusionists then, and touring with them, how did that all come about? Can you remember when you got the first call to be part of the show?
Yes, it has been an amazing journey. So up until I was 27, my career was strictly in Italy. I was doing my corporate shows, my private shows, some TV. I had 2 TV series. So things were going well in those years. Then I was participating in a magic convention in San Vincent called Masters of Magic. It's an Italian magic convention, national convention. And that year they were doing a gala show that was also a competition that was filmed for TV. And I was one of the contestants. And so I was performing some of my escapes, like an upside down straitjacket, an escape from a small safe. And in that show, one of the special guests was Brad Daniels. And of course, I've always been a great admirer of his illusions and his performances. And so when he was there, I was like, you know, can I take a picture with you? You know,
Yeah,
and
fanboys.
and he saw me perform there, and at the end of the show, he said, I need to talk to you. And as I say, do you like carbonara? And he's like, of course, it's my favorite pasta. Great. After, at the end of the show, I bring you in a place and we're going to have carbonara. So that's what happened. We're going to have the best pasta ever. And he's talking to me that he was into this project of being part of a show where they were trying to put together the 7 best magicians in the world, each one with different skills. So, you know, the best car manipulator, the best mentalist, the best big illusion guy. And so he starts to make these names like Kevin James, Jeff Hobson, Dan Sperry. I was like, what? This is amazing. And he's like, but we are missing one piece of the puzzle. And the missing piece is the escapologist. And back then I had the mohawk. I was wearing, you know, kind of leatherish black, you know, stuff. And he was like, I think we are looking for someone like you.
Wow.
Because I saw you on stage. I like your style. I like your charisma. I like your look. So that was the beginning. And 6 months later, I was at the Sydney Opera House in Australia performing the very first show of what has been an incredible success for over 9 years worldwide, from Broadway to the Pantages to the Shaftesbury in London, in West End. Yeah, that was the beginning.
It's amazing. I mean, obviously, the difference between, you know, doing like a once-off stunt, or like you said, the coffin of death type stunt, and then doing something that you have to do every night, you know, on tour for, you just said there, 9 years. You know, it's a lot different than trying to think of one thing for one big public stunt, or something you've got to do repeatedly.
Mm-hmm. Well, the funny thing is, when then I had the chance to talk with the producer of the show, he was like, so can you send us a video of things you've done so we can look? And so I sent a video of my TV series, and he comes back to me saying, oh, the water torture cell, that's what we were looking for. So can we do that? And I'm like, well, I performed it only once for TV. So yes, we have 6 months, you know, I can train again and get ready for it. And he's like, we need to do it 18 times. And I'm like, what? Yes, we have 2 weeks. We need to do 18 shows. And I seriously say to him, I don't think I can do it. Like, that's a stunt. That's an act supposed to be once, and that's it. Mm-hmm. And he was very, you know, smart producer mindset, saying, let's try. And we see. And this was smart because from that day on, I talked with my team, and they were saying, well, that's challenging, but let's start training for this.
Yeah.
So you are able to recover from performance and be able to do it. And so I trained for the following 8 months, and I went to Sydney, and I did the 18 performances. And after that, I've done hundreds of performances per year. So I'm very glad that the producer didn't believe that was the limit, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a challenge to yourself to do something like that, you know, regularly. Like, I mean, it's a serious achievement in itself. I'm sure you're probably one of the only escape artists that does it to that extent, I would imagine.
Excuse me, can you say it again?
I'm saying you're probably the only magician that does that amount of that effect to that amount, you know, or wise.
Well, I guess you know, usually with Illusionists, we are touring 8 to 10 months out of a year. Mm-hmm. And so we reached between 250 and 300 shows during that amount. Wow. That means that per year I'm doing 250 or 300 underwater water tortoise cell escapes.
Yeah.
Now multiply for the 9 years, and then it becomes some thousands of times.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably in the Guinness Book of Records, or it should be. This is the show that we always talk about. It's called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And the idea is that you talk about a time in your career. I know you've been talking about loads of like ups and downs and different things already, and kind of and injuries and things. But it's kind of a time where you thought something was going to be really good, and then kind of turned bad, and then by the end of it, it was really ugly. Or you can tell a story for each thing. So a really good one, a bad one, and an ugly one.
I think I have a story. I actually recently published an interview on a major kind of Jimmy Fallon show, but of Denmark. So you're not that far from there. So I was in Venezuela with Illusionists.
Mm-hmm.
Guns N' Roses played a week earlier where we were going to be. So
awesome.
The feeling of rockstar vibe was so we go into this arena. It was 7,000 seats. It was going to be like 1 or 2 weeks of shows.
Mm-hmm.
So Venezuela, amazing. We are in Caracas. There is the arena. People are going crazy for it. I walk out on stage. We were using pyros for the opening because in certain countries it's easier to use pyro effects, and we had these explosions. It was amazing. It was really a rock concert show. It was amazing. Cool. So this is the good. Okay. Then it's time for my performance. It was like an afternoon show, I think 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. We had lunch in the catering of the arena. And before performance, I don't really eat. Usually I fast. But since I had 5 hours before, I say I can eat something. And I really had like a cup of rice. It was this yellow rice. So nothing, it was not anything crazy. A cup of rice. So I had it. And then, it's time to do the show. It's 3 o'clock. We do the opening. Everything is amazing. People are going crazy. So we are all pumped up. It's time for me to do water cycle. So I do my 45 minutes of breathing exercise and training. So I have to focus. I have to lower my heart rate. I need to visualize what I'm going to do. Walk on stage. I do my presentation. They lock my feet into the tortoise stocks. They rise me up. They move the tank under me. And then I'm there breathing. I take, usually 5 deep breaths. And, in that timing, I'm scanning myself. Am I feeling good? I'm ready. I'm set. And so in the last breath, the air, I take it in, and the meal I had for lunch from here, I was upside down, okay?
Yeah.
So the meal arrives in my mouth. And I was able to hold it, so I was not going to throw it above the tank.
Yeah.
So that's the bad and the ugly as well. And so in that moment, I was like, I have 7,000 people. It was the first show. I don't want to stop everything. So I thought, okay, let me see. So I sent what I had in my mouth back. So I swallowed the meal. It was the worst thing ever.
Of course.
And then I felt myself, my assistant was looking at me because he didn't know what was going on. It was like, what's wrong, And so I swallow it, and then I check myself. That was crazy. How am I feeling? Can I do it? Am I prepared for this? Yes, I'm ready. And then I did the performance anyway. And I did it like every other performance. Except I kept on hold the thought of that. And so I released it only at the end, when it came out, everything was fine. And but yeah, definitely that was the bad and the ugly episode of Venezuela.
Absolutely. That's got everything all in one story.
Yes.
So how is
again? It didn't happen again. I paid much more attention on, so now I have like now we have our catering, I have my people cooking, or or keeping more hours, or sometimes I've been traveling with my own kitchen as well, because in some countries can be pretty hard to get certain things. And so I was just cooking, white boiled rice or white just pasta in my own dressing room.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you mean as well about not eating like a meal or anything kind of big before a performance, even just any kind of performance. Yeah, and that's documented in some of the Houdini books as well. That he was actually quite the same, and then afterwards they'd all go out for like a big meal. So
yeah, I like that. The big meal after is always welcome.
It's like, if you survive, you get a big meal. It's a bonus.
Yeah. That's the goal. That's the motivational goal.
Absolutely. Well, man, it's been absolutely brilliant having you on the show. It's been an honor just to have a chat and to a fellow escape artist, and just to have you on the show. It's been brilliant.
No, thank you very much. I hope this will be, a good opportunity for your listeners in Ireland and international, since now these things can be seen worldwide from anybody who has the link, to be inspiring, to have a thought. And definitely if you are into, escapes or any kind of dangerous performance, safety first. There is not a second chance if you screw up. So that's your life. So safety first, work with the professionals, have a good consultant, have great people around you. And I hope this interview was a little something for your own inspiration.
Yeah, man, it was absolutely perfect, and that's great advice for anyone listening as well, because it is hard. Even when I started myself, it's very hard to talk to another escape artist, or even so. I mean, if there is anyone watching, you reach out to either of us, and we tell you what to do instead of having you do an injury to yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Spade.
Thanks very much, man. Cheers, I appreciate it. Have a nice time.
Thanks. You. Ciao, everybody. Bye bye.